For 400 years, the smartest minds in the world stared at these stones. Linguists, archaeologists, historians, priests. They came from Europe, from America, from the greatest universities ever built. They brought everything they had, their education, their tools, their certainty, and every single one of them failed. The Maya were not primitive. They were not simple. They were something else entirely. At their peak, the Maya city of Tikal was larger than any city in Europe at the same time. Cities of hundreds of thousands, trade networks spanning entire continents, architecture so precise it still stands today, long after the empires that conquered them have turned to dust. And they wrote everything down, on stone, on walls, on monuments that were built to last forever. Millions of carved symbols, covering thousands of structures across an entire civilization. But nobody could read them. For 400 years, the leading theory, held by the most respected scholars in the world, was that Maya glyphs were religious, cosmic, abstract. They believed the Maya recorded no human history, no names, no kings, no wars, no births, no deaths, just time, just stars, just symbols pointing at things no living person could understand. The pattern was always there, carved in stone, in plain sight. For 400 years, nobody saw it. And then, in a quiet apartment in Cambridge, Massachusetts, a woman who was never supposed to solve this opened a folder of photographs. Her name was Tatiana Proskouriakoff, born in 1909 in Tomsk, Russia, a city so far from the jungles of Central America that the two worlds should never have touched. When she was 8 years old, her family fled the Russian Revolution. They arrived in America with almost nothing. She studied architecture, not archaeology, not linguistics, not ancient history. She learned how to look at what remained and reconstruct what once stood there. That skill, that specific, quiet skill, would change everything. In the 1930s and 40s, she worked for the Carnegie Institution, not as a researcher, but as an illustrator. She was brilliant, and she was invisible. Her job was to draw Maya ruins, to reconstruct, on paper, what these cities looked like in their prime. She was the person who made the discoveries of others visible, not the one who made discoveries herself. That is what everyone assumed. In the 1950s, sitting alone with a set of photographs from Piedras, Negras, a Maya site deep in the jungles of Guatemala, she noticed something, not something new. The photographs had been studied before. The monuments had been cataloged, measured, debated. But she saw a pattern. What she noticed was so simple. It was almost embarrassing that no one had seen it before. The monuments clustered into groups. Each group began with the same glyph, a carved symbol she called the toothache glyph. Then came a series of dates, and within every single group, without exception, the range of dates never exceeded one human lifetime. She stopped. She looked again. And she understood. These were not cosmic records. These were not religious symbols pointing at abstract skies. These were reigns. These were kings. Real names. Real births. Real deaths. Real wars. Real human beings, carved into stone, waiting to be seen for over 1,000 years. The Maya had been recording their own history all along. Every expert had the same evidence. Not one of them had seen it. She had found the pattern, not in a jungle, not through a new excavation, not with better technology. In photographs, sitting in filing cabinets, available to anyone. She submitted her paper in 1960. The academic world largely ignored her. Then came the verification. Other scholars took her framework and tested it across every Maya site with standing monuments. Every single time, it worked perfectly, without exception. The field did not just accept her conclusion. It had to rebuild itself around it. What that rebuilding revealed, nobody was prepared for. A king, his name, Kinich Janab Pakal, ruler of the city of Palenque. Born on March 26, 603 AD, he became king at the age of 12. He ruled for 68 years. When he died, his people sealed him inside a tomb beneath a pyramid. They placed a jade mask over his face. They put jade in each of his hands. They carved his entire life onto his sarcophagus lid. His birth, his reign, his death, his passage into the underworld. And they sealed the door. For 1,300 years, that tomb stayed shut. His name forgotten, his story invisible. Until Tatiana looked differently and gave us the key to read it. But what she unlocked was not just one king's story. It was a civilization's mind. Those same glyphs recorded astronomical observations of such precision that the Maya calculation of the solar year stands at 365.2420 days. Modern science measures it at 365.2422, a difference of 2/10,000ths of a day, achieved with no metal tools, no telescopes, no computers, only observation, patience, and a way of recording knowledge so precise that 1,500 years later, it still holds. We still cannot fully explain how they did it. The knowledge was never lost. It was written in stone, in plain sight. For 400 years, we just didn't know how to look. Tatiana Proskouriakoff died in 1985. She never became a household name. She never received a Nobel Prize. She was never on the cover of a magazine. She was never the person the cameras pointed at when a new Maya discovery was announced. She worked quietly, at a desk, at Harvard's Peabody Museum, until the end. But here is what she left behind. Every Maya city we now understand, we understand because of her. Every king whose name we know, every war we can date, every birth, every death, every dynasty, readable because one woman, dismissed by the establishment, looked at the same photographs everyone else had looked at, and saw what they could not. She was not supposed to be the one. She had no excavation experience, no PhD in the right field, no institutional backing, no army of researchers behind her. She was the illustrator, the one who drew what other people found, and she found what no one else could see. This is what patterns do. They do not disappear because nobody is looking. They wait. But her story did not end with her. In 2016, archaeologists aimed LIDAR, laser mapping technology, at the Maya lowlands of Guatemala. What they found rewrote the scale of everything we thought we knew. Not dozens of hidden structures, not hundreds, tens of thousands. Hidden cities, vast causeways connecting urban centers across the jungle. Agricultural systems so sophisticated they could have fed millions. An entire civilization, hiding in plain sight beneath the canopy. We have explored perhaps 5% of what is there. 5%. Which means 95% of what the Maya built, recorded, and understood is still waiting, still buried, still written in stone, in a language we are only beginning to learn to read. What is still down there, we do not know. But history has shown us, repeatedly, that the answer is never what we expect. It is always larger than we imagined, always older than we believed, always more sophisticated than the story we told ourselves. The Maya did not just record history, they recorded knowledge. Knowledge of time, of astronomy, of agriculture, of human organization at a scale we are still trying to understand. And 95% of that knowledge has not been found yet. Maybe it never will be. Or maybe it is waiting for the next person who is willing to look differently. Tatiana Proskouriakoff did not find anything new. She looked at what was already there and saw it for the first time. The real question, the one worth sitting with, is this. What are you standing too close to right now to see? What pattern is already there, waiting for you to simply look differently?